I what I thought I'd do here is read chapter 50 from the Arizona book that I'm getting ready to publish. Once, long ago, in a time before our time, there was a garden high in the rocky upland of the land we call Arizona. It was not that first garden, of course, but it was, nevertheless, very fine indeed. This garden could be called a village, though this village had no houses, only the sweet earth. In the village lived, while colored with the colors of our world, a people. These people were dwellers from the sky. Many tales have been told of their exploits, and many wrongs have been falsely laid at their feet. They were a diffident race, given to observation and kindly intervention. Occasionally, they also took pleasure in tending their garden village. Now, the location of this garden is unknown in our time, but the dwellers are known to persist. From time to time, they are seen in the corner of someone's eyes toward the evening when things become less distinct and workaday in our world. Some have even spoken with them, but it is rare. The spirit of Coyote also persists. Whenever someone says they crave justice but are really seeking justification for some false desire, Coyote is there. He is greedy and will lie to get his way. He can be very charming, smiling to himself all the while. Now it happened that one deep night, Coyote came to the chicken yard, where the family we know keep their hens. He was chatting with these hens while they rested in their little hut. "Why should I not tear open your little fortress here and eat you all up?" said Coyote. "What will you give me to save your lives?" The foolish hens didn't know what he would have, that he would have had a hard time breaking into, for his strength was all in his words. So they were terrified and took counsel among themselves. They had seen Emmy's golden frog many times, and were not so foolish that they didn't know it held great value in the world of men. One said, "In that little house there, right behind you, is a great golden frog, guarded only by some people, a cat and a dog. Surely one such as yourself could easily procure it. It is large as 2 eggs and of great value." It was a slight exaggeration. This gave him something besides meat to think about, and he started to devise a plan. He only knew of one kind of living being that could move around unseen. He puzzled long into the next morning about a way to bend one of these dwellers from the sky to his will. He thought of ways to justify his greed. It was almost beyond even Coyote's wiliness. But at last he walked into the scrub desert seeking one of these dwellers, and at last he came upon one. We shall call him Weller. Perhaps that was truly his name. Coyote called out in a friendly sounding voice, "Hello there, I'm glad to see you just now." Weller looked down upon Coyote and said, "And why are you glad to see me just now?" "Something has been taken from me that is rightfully mine, and I can't get it back, for it is guarded in a human's house," said Coyote. "I know that you can come and go without being seen, and that no human, dog or cat can withstand you. I seek justice. Will you go into this house and get my treasure?" "What treasure is this?" asked Weller. "It is a great golden frog," said Coyote. "These humans have taken what is rightfully mine." You will notice that he did not describe how this crime was done. Now, Weller had been around for a couple of 100 years and understood Coyote's nature pretty well. He was not so easily bent. But because he was curious to get to the bottom of this case, he agreed to go to the house with Coyote that very night, once the moon was high in the sky and all was quiet in the house. Therefore, when all was quiet and dark, Weller and Coyote walked together to the little blue mobile home. Moonlight was all around, giving the scene a very mysterious air. Coyote's greedy heart was all aflutter with avarice and expectation. Honda, in the house, knew they were out there, but not who they were. A deep, disapproving sound rumbled in his chest, but he hadn't decided to wake his people yet. He listened. Out in Julia's hogan, Billy opened his eyes. He looked to Julia's bed, but it was empty. When Willer and Coyote came near the front of the little blue house, they saw that a great tawny cat sat watchfully upon the small porch. Her eyes glowed a dull yellow light. She spoke. "Hello, Willer. Well met indeed. What have you here?" "This Coyote says that these people here have taken his treasure, a great golden frog. He wants me to pass into their house and steal it for him," answered Weller with a bracingly clear understanding of the situation. The cat laughed. "Oh, he's only jealous because the trap he set, Claw, failed. The bull that was Claw was restored to manhood and went to his people. And in the freeing of the bull, that mine up in the hill, up in the hill, the golden frog was discovered in the wall. The man took it fairly for his troubles. All of his mischief fell apart, but he still wants the prize," said the puma. Coyote began to consider how he might escape, but he thought too late. Weller put his great foot on Coyote and held him firmly to earth. "What shall we do with this thievish fellow, Cat?" he asked. "I say we mark him so that he will always be known, and that we assure him that for his own sake he must never come near again," said the cat. "For if he might come again, I will know how to deal with him." "Well said, Cat," said Weller. So together they made a simple spell involving moonlight and cat spit. The tip of Coyote's tail was made bright white so they could always be known from all the natural coyotes. He was marked forever as a thievish churl and a liar. Weller removed his foot. Coyote escaped out into the moonlit desert. The puma yawned. Weller and she said their good nights and parted company, each to their own well-earned rest. So now you know, if you ever approached by a smiling coyote with a very bright white tail tip, you have been warned. Don't believe a word he says. May as well go on to chapter 51. In his own opinion, Coyote was not that easily bested. His pride was injured. Then there was his sense of injustice. Plus he had gotten his teeth into the idea of the great golden frog. In his imagination, it had grown to the size of a rabbit. The idea niggled at him. He began working on Plan B. Coyote knew better than to look to Weller or any of his kin for help. It hadn't gone well last time. He thought he had better do his own thieving. He would fly by the seat of his pants, so to speak, if he wore pants, that is, though, to be pedantic and accurate, some with the spirit of Coyote do wear pants. He had been crouched under one of those resinous bushes they specialize in out in American deserts. It had been shady in the morning light, but now the sun was straight overhead, and he decided to get moving. He had gotten thirsty too, and he remembered that there was a nice little stream of clean water very near his goal. So he slunk low and silently back towards the little homestead with its shady trees. You might not even have seen him as he moved along if you were looking upon the scene, except for the shocking white of his tail tip. When he got there, Emmy was playing in the yard with Honda the dog. Coyote did not reveal himself at first. He skirted them, looking to find the stream and have a good drink. He also wanted a little mud to disguise his tail tip, the flag of his dishonoring. Refreshed and disguised, he came smiling ingratiatingly up to Emmy and Honda. She had been tossing a red rubber ball as far as she could, not very far, and Honda would go fetch it, like the accommodating fellow he was. Honda wasn't impressed with this creature. In fact, he disapproved of him immediately. The hens in their yard shuddered and went into their little house, waiting to hear what would happen. "Hello, Princess," said the newcomer. "What a fine day it is. How do you find yourself today?" He smiled at Honda, too, showing a lot of shiny teeth. "My name is Emmy," said Emmy. "Who are you? I'm not lost, so why do I need to find myself?" "My name is Mai, though most call me Coyote. Language being what it is, Princess Emmy. said he. "You must be a princess, for I have heard that you possess a great treasure. The whole desert knows of the great golden frog, princess." "Oh," said she, "he lives in a little green house made by my father." "Tell me, princess, where is this little green house? I would love so much to see the golden frog," said Coyote, slavering just a little bit. Willie walked by just then, and seeing the scene, slipped by quietly, heading for the old hogan. "The little green house is in the bedroom, maybe," said Emmy, laughing at her own joke. "The golden frog is a house frog now. One time he got lost, but Honda found him." "Oh, Princess Emmy," cried Coyote, "take me to the little green house so that I may gaze upon the great golden frog." He thought that perhaps he could snatch it up and run away before anyone could catch him. That was his whole plan B, in a nutshell. You will have observed that he had done exactly that which he had been warned not to do. Just then, an old one, full of wisdom and power, came walking toward this conversation. She seemed to be an old woman wearing a little old blue print dress with silver buttons. Her white hair, done up tight, shone brilliantly in the noonday sunlight. She wore soft leather shoes in the fashion of other days. She carried in her right hand an enigmatic stick. "Hi, Andy," said Emmy. "Grr," said Honda. "Ho, Mai. I see that you are a fool," said Aunt Julia. "That mud wouldn't convince a rabbit." The old one began to step one way and then another. Coyote watched her fascinated. Her steps became more and more complicated. They wove. Her little leather clad feet made confusing patterns on the ground. First she would go forward and then back. She put the stick's end on the ground and walked around it many times. Then she did it backwards. She sang a little song under her breath. No one could remember the words later. She smiled at the sky. She smiled at the earth. She blew a breath at Coyote. He blinked. Then he sat on his haunches. He shook his head. Then stood up. He looked at them all as if he could not believe what he was seeing. He slunk low and slow away as if very afraid, passing once more out into the desert. "What did you do, Auntie?" said Emmy, with the red rubber ball in her hand. "I helped him forget us," said Julia. She laughed a little. "Oh, good," said Emmy. "Honda didn't like him anyhow." The door of the small house popped open. Beth stuck her head out and called, "Lunchtime. Ready or not, come and get it." The old one, the child, and the dog did just as they were bidden. The family had a very nice lunch of sandwiches and salad, and no one remembered to mention Coyote. And I think that's enough for today. Thank you.